Good evening, everybody. Let's make sure the microphone's working here. Okay, good. Looks good. Yep. Welcome to episode 92. Get a couple things going on here. Sorry. Welcome to episode 92. Getting near that 100 mark. Hope everybody had a good weekend and good rest of last week and a good start this week. So we've been trying to get this Oleynik vintage race car hauler finished up. Still been hung up on parts and stuff like that, but making slow progress. Hey Ryan, how you doing? Yeah, creeping up on 100 for sure. But yeah, so I'm getting close on the Oleynik. Little bit at a time. Like I said, parts are coming in small doses, so that's kind of making the progress a little slow, but it's all good. Hey Chris, how you doing? How was the autocross last weekend? You went up with the St. Louis group. Let me know what your thoughts were on that. Yeah, and I got Finn's 69 Corvette back in. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You guys might remember we had it here about 2 months ago. Had rust in the gas tank and some other issues, and the hits just keep on coming with that one. Made some progress on Saturday with Chuck's truck. Been working on getting brake lines all back in it. Got trans dipstick and some other small things. So making some slow progress on that. That was about it. Had to service my my shop truck once again, unfortunately. Guys might have saw the shorts video. I rebuilt the front end. Well, last week the gearbox, the reman gearbox I put in it, blew the pitman seal, and so I had to put another box in it, and then got that done, and then realized it needed rear brakes, so I did that on Sunday. Was able to enjoy the swimming pool a little bit with the wife on Sunday. Weather's been really nice this spring here in Florida. We normally are starting to get pretty hot this time of year, but so far it's been pretty nice this year. And the pool was actually warm enough to get in. I know people up north are probably going, what? But yeah, us warm-blooded folk in Florida, if the water's below 85, it feels pretty darn cold. I mean, you can get in it, but it's just not super enjoyable. So, but it was good this weekend, so pool season has started. So that was pretty good. A couple other things going on this weekend. We're going to travel up to East Palatka in northeastern Florida, visit our cousins. I haven't been up to their place yet. Maybe we'll get a boat ride on the St. John's. That'll be pretty cool. So that'll be we'll be out Friday and Monday for that. Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, there's quite a few projects that seem like they just don't want to go away. I'm sure. I mean, you've been working on that square body for quite a while. I'm sure that is kind of gets that feeling too. Dave's Chevelle, even though we haven't been working on that as a full-blown project, it's more of a weekends and stuff like that. But I mean, yeah, we've been working on that car more or less for 15 years. That's when Dave started buying parts for it, and Chuck and I stripped it and then slowly got it to the blaster and back and forth and metal replacement. And then after a couple of years, we decided, Dave asked, and I decided to, I just wasn't getting the metal work done quick enough, being that's not my forte. And we finally got the car far enough along that a body shop would agree to even take the car. When that project started, the car was rotted so badly. I couldn't even find a body shop that would take the project on. But I've probably mentioned it before, but with Kim, Dave's wife, Kim's mother's car from brand new, so there's a very sentimental attachment to that car. So that's why we went ahead and resurrected it from one foot in the grave, so to speak. So that's been a long project. That it seems like we're right at the finish line, but still have a few little odds and ends to get buttoned up and get some mileage on. I do have about 10 miles on it so far. The drivability has been pretty good, so that's been good. But there are some things we have to get ironed out. I need to work on the stereo. That doesn't seem to be working properly. And, you know, just things like that. Ryan's have to save those special ones. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Kim has a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memories. I mean, she grew up with that car, so you can't just pass that aside. But yeah, Finn's Corvette, that thing's a mess, and I was trying to pass it off to his mechanic that's been working on it. They went ahead and put the new fuel tank in it, and it came back. I'll show you guys in a little bit, but I mean, it's still a mess. So I don't know. We're gonna keep moving forward on it, but just it's killing me. Dick's T-Type, that's another one that's been kind of lingering around lately. I thought I had to pull the engine out to put a turbo drain back in it, and come to find out there was one in the block. It was just hidden behind some accessories, so I don't have to take the engine out. But now I'm buried in so many other projects. I need to get some time to get back on that. So it'll be a minute, but we'll get back on that thing. So yeah, so I'm still waiting on a few parts on the Oleynik. I got AC bracket coming for it. I got to get exhaust pipe to get the exhaust system built for it. And I had a couple sensors I had to get for the transmission. They just came in today. I've got switches and stuff I need to put in the shifter box, although I have that mounted now. So we'll see how that works out. Chris says it went well. Drove up and back 2.5 hours in the car. Ran good. Great. That's awesome. Yeah, I want to get with you, Chris. I don't know if you're ready to track your car yet. Scott was gonna. He signed up for a second. I forget which group he was going with. Wasn't HPD. It was. Anyway, but his Le Mans is back in the body shop. They had to fix up some of the pieces he didn't like from the original paint job, so it looks like he's going to miss the second event that he was going to. But I want to get the Cup car ready and get that on track. I do have the good road course rear end housing on its way coming to me. So when I get that, I'll go ahead and put that in. Put the transmission in the car and get the car reset up for road course. And then maybe in June, I'd like to get the car on track, so at least it's been on track and stuff like that. I do have it on Racing Junk, both in the asphalt stock car and road course listings, and there's like 1,400 views and there's 5 saves on it, so that's good. I haven't gotten any contacts yet, but like I said, there's a few things I still need to do to get the car completely ready and sorted. So, but it's moving forward to a sale, and then we can get back on the Vet Hawk once I get some of these other things ironed out in the shop. So I guess we'll go. Let me bring up Finn's car. So Let's see here. See if I can get this properly. Of course, I didn't get the stuff. I didn't get the stuff ironed out or in order or anything, but we'll see how it works out here. So there's Finn's '69 Corvette. Came in. You guys were on the show. Remember last time it came in, it had condensation or water from fuel with ethanol in it. Turned to rust. So you had to have a new fuel tank put in. So his mechanic put the new tank in. You can see the new tank up there. He told me, hey, the gas gauge doesn't seem to work. So I look underneath the car, and this is what I find in the wiring. Unbelievable that a person calling himself a mechanic in a shop would do wiring like this. But it gets done that way. So, yeah, household wire nuts, grounds tied together for both the gauge and the fuel pump. In the background, there's the fuel pump wire, another wire nut. The gauge sender, another wire nut. This wire wrapped around everything is just crazy. So I cleaned that up. Got some more pictures of the mess. There it is with it cleaned up. I took about 2 feet of wiring out. And so that's all cured now. Let me go ahead and go back on here. So the other thing we did was I took the HEI distributor out of the car and put the MSD in, because these cars have tack drive. And so with the HEI unit, there was no tack in the car. So we put the HEI, or the MSD billet distributor with tack drive. It's the only distributor that MSD or Holley make that has the tack drive set up. And I'm not a big fan of the magnetic triggers because they are very noisy. So, but I looked in the instructions on the Sniper 1, and it did have a setup for it to be wired that way, so I thought I'd go ahead and try it. Let's see, Chris says starter started giving me trouble. Started clicking. I have let the clutch out to get it started. Not lined up right. Electrical solenoid going bad. Battery good. What do you think? So usually when it's clicking like that, it's usually low voltage to the solenoid on the purple wire. So you'll have to take a look at that. We'll get a voltmeter on there and test it. Or it could be the solenoid itself going bad on that. So, but yeah, we'll have to take a look at that. Ryan says, "Oh my God, wow! If that's a mechanic, I'm a gynecologist." Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous, And I put the fuel tank together because the tank came from Holley, and the pump and the sending unit and all that stuff has to be assembled and then installed in the tank. And when I talked to Finn, I said, let me get that stuff put together. He goes, oh, no, my guy's good. He can do all that. Well, looking at the wiring, I'm glad I did assemble the tank, because who knows what it would have looked like inside the tank. So anyway, we got that all straightened out. But back on this MSD unit, I should have known better. I went ahead and followed Holley's older Sniper 1 instructions on making this thing work. It did run, but it had a lot of issues. And of course, for you guys that don't know, so most distributors for electronic fuel injection are Hall effect. So they're a 5 or 12 volt square wave, on or off. A magnetic trigger, like a crank trigger setup, anything that has a flying magnet, is a sine wave. So it's a kind of like a rolling hill. It goes over zero and then under zero, back and forth, like AC voltage. The problem is when you're cranking the engine, it probably doesn't make but maybe a half a volt negative and positive. And because it goes negative and positive, it's only a half a volt positive and a half a volt negative. And it's very easy for the computer to see RFI and EMI noise, radio interference, or electromagnetic interference, and think it is another triggering event. So you get sporadic TAC inputs to the fuel injection. You get misfires. You get all kinds of stuff. So after I fought with it for a full day, because it said it could work, well, it didn't. So I went ahead and pulled the distributor, went ahead and put mechanical timing back in it, and hooked it up as CD box control. That was the other thing. The car didn't have a CD box in it, so now it does. So that helps out the spark output. I didn't get a picture of it, but once again, this fantastic mechanic pulled the fuel tank out to change the gas tank because it's rusted inside. Do you think he installed a new fuel filter? Nope. And once I did that, which the fuel pump filter, the fuel filter was partially plugged, I put a fuel pressure gauge in to see what was going on with the system, and the regulator was plugged up. So I installed a external regulator, removed the internal regulator out of the Sniper. Now the fuel system is set at 60 psi like it's supposed to, and that part of the vehicle is all good now. There's another picture of the MSD, and now we have a regular distributor with a regular coil, so all the heat chrome shields could go back on this engine if Finn wanted to do so. A couple little things. They had a straight fitting here on the coming out of the return, so the air cleaner wouldn't sit down flat. I put a 30-degree fitting on there to fix that, and like I said, I removed the regulator, and that kind of cured all that. And the car had red plug wires on it, and the plug wires had burn spots on the header tubes, so I put a new set of wires on it. But even with all that, as Ryan was saying earlier, sometimes you get married to these projects. The car still isn't running 100%. I've corrected a whole list of problems, but this engine was supposedly a new build, and I haven't talked to Finn yet, but I have a feeling the shop that did all this excellent work is also the shop that installed the engine, because they probably installed the fuel injection, which I had to straighten out the last time the car was here. And I pulled a valve cover tonight, and I was going to try to show some tuning stuff, but the car still has some popping in it, and like I said, I pulled the valve cover off, and maybe looked down inside, and it has flat tappets in there. So now I am assuming my next problem with this car is going to be it's got a camshaft going bad. They probably didn't break the camshaft in properly. Everybody that's ever broken in a flat tappet camshaft, it was always critical to get it started up right away and get it straight to 2,000 RPM and get the cam running in that zone where it is the minimum amount of load till the lobe and the lifter can get a mate in the surface. Well, the cam cores are, not what they used to be. The oil is not what it used to be, and it's even more critical now to have an exact startup. In fact, valve spring pressure is another problem, and I did check the spring pressure on one cylinder head, and it has like 140 on the seat. So that's a high pressure load to break the cam in. So you really should have had like an 80-pound spring, break the cam in, and then put the heavier spring in so that the motor can take the camshaft. Better thing to do is not put flat tappets in a reman motor. I always go with a hydraulic roller so that break-in and zinc and phosphorus additives in the oil is not critical, and it just makes everybody's life way better. So here, supposedly this engine is fairly new, and it may need to have a camshaft installed in it now. So again, this car was only coming in to just touch up the fuel tune because the new fuel system was in it, and now I'm changing all these parts and chasing down all these problems. So there you go. So that's the updates on the on Finn's '69 Corvette. So we'll see. I'll have some more information next week what's going on with that. Chris says track days, maybe NASA and Miami possibly. Yeah, Homestead would be fun to run. I've got experience there. Sebring, I made one lap at Sebring. So, and that was, I can't even tell you, that was probably 24 years ago. So even though the last time I ran Homestead was probably 15 years ago, but at least I've ran probably I ran a bunch of hour and a half enduros there. So I was co-driving, so I probably have at least an hour and a half on track time from 3 events. So I think I could get back into that deal pretty good. But so that would be good. Yeah, Chris, we'll have to get together with that and see what Scott's going to do, and we'll go from there. So, but yeah, so that's the crap on the Chevelle. I mean, on the Corvette. That's been a crazy deal. Not something I really wanted to even be involved in, but here we are. Let me see. So I got the, I guess we'll move on to the Oleynik. I guess we'll start off with the shifter console. We talked about that last week. So here was where we were at last week. Made some more modifications to it. I kicked that bottom front edge to move it forward, but it was still pretty high. So I didn't like that. Let me move my pictures here. So I went ahead and made some modifications to the there we go. Made some modifications to the console. Here you can see I put nut certs in, and I put 3/8 studs in because that way when this carpet gets glued back down, it'll be easy to locate the studs, and then you just have to spin some nuts on it, and that'll get that done. So that was got that mounted, and there's the new console now, painted with a rattle can. I'm not happy with the paint job, but I did lower the top of the console 2.5 inches, so that lowered it down below the seat height. Fits a lot better, and still need to put the idiot lights and the 2 switches. So I'm going to put 4 lights up here in this corner, and then there'll be 2 switches. One will be tow haul, and the other one will be for the 2-speed differential. So, but at least it's fitted in there now, and we have that all done. So there's the side view, and you can kind of see I cut that front piece to move it forward to get it away from the seat, so now the seat has some leeway in it. And there's just another view. Because the engine, the firewall is back on this compared to a regular square body, you can see like the heater duct comes around from underneath the dash. So room up there is a little bit snugger than in your normal C10 through C20, C30. The C60 is a little bit more challenging, but that worked out pretty well. So that's on its final deal there. I'll get some pictures of it with finalized. Let's see. So these are. Let's see what these are. So here's some more pictures of the engine installation. Got the fan and some of the accessories that I have in stock on. There's the motor mounts I built for it. And you can see I left the horseshoe ring because these have a, this mount here has like a polyurethane bushing, and I'm not sure what the material is or how durable it's going to be with the torque of the truck. So I figured leaving this horseshoe in the front would take some of the load off these mounts on the side, and it's not going to hurt. So that's how I did that. And this is the oil cooler and trans cooler housing that I built. So let me zoom in a little bit. So these brackets here is where the bumper bolts. So the bumper basically ends up right across here. So this cooler box with the ducting will be right behind the bumper and below with nothing behind it. So it will get a very good ram air effect going down the highways, so, which should really help with oil and transmission temperatures. There you can see the unit, two pretty good size plate style Doral coolers. Little side view so you can see how I have the walls for the scoop on there, and then of course the frame above it is blocks off the air too, so it's really going to get a good ram air effect on that. That should work out really well. And then there's the fittings and the framework across the top. I got to clean up the frame. I had to cut some notches in there with the torch, so I'll clean that up yet, but I just wanted to get that stuff organized and get the lines made. Now I can go ahead and start cleaning some of that up. You can kind of see the lines going around here. Unfortunately, the camera zoomed in on the power steering pump rather than the cooler lines. And then it's just a top view with all the coils. The fuel rails are in place. Just waiting. The injector should be here this week. A couple little things like that. Just been kind of hanging up, waiting and stuff. Trans dipstick, oil dipsticks are all in now, so making progress on that stuff. We got the oil filler cap. That was a little hard to find, but I got it. And the transmission pan. This transmission was used and we did not rebuild it, so the pan was crushed. So my friend Jonathan, who does our transmission rebuilds, he was able to find a friend that put a big cast pan on his vehicle, so we got this one to put on there. New screw-on filter. You can see up here in the corner there's our lines going into the engine block for the oil cooler. So that worked out good. And then up here, this is a neutral safety switch that's on most of your late model GM transmissions and definitely on the Allisons. And the shifter kit that I got for the truck, which was from Mill Supply. It's basically like a box truck universal shifter kit. So it comes with a bracket that bolts onto the Allison for the cable, but the lever was actually right against the neutral safety switch. Maybe some of the Allison 2000s don't use the neutral safety or they whatever. So what I did there, I don't have a good picture of it, but I can zoom in a little closer. What I did was I cut the bracket off, so the piece that's bolted to the output, the shifter selector shaft, and I welded a piece of moly tubing to it, and then moved the shift lever out, and then put spacers behind the bracket. So now this will clear the neutral safety switch, and that'll all work out good. So that was a little deal there. You can see the wiring harness that we built for the Allison controls. That's all in and working now. finally, after a week, we got the dry shaft shortened and installed. And here's the original crankcase or a bell housing mount that we reused and just moved it back and drilled 2 holes back there and made it a regular transmission mount. So it fit in the frame. Just had to make these L brackets to sit in the frame rail. That worked out really nice. Didn't have to fabricate anything. So one of the things I want to do with the fuel system on this truck is it's twin 40-gallon tanks, one on each side, and it's kind of a pain to pull into a gas station at the gas aisles, which are usually the car, the passenger car and passenger truck area, to get to fill both tanks. So being when we're going to be fuel injected now, and the fuel line and the selector valve on this thing, I don't believe would handle the higher fuel pressure. You could actually smell fuel vapors coming from the ball valve that swapped positions on the tanks. What I'm going to do is remove these drain plugs out of the bottom of the tank, put a 90 with a ball valve here, and run and connect the 2 tanks together and use that as my pickup to the fuel pump. So both tanks will be fed at the same time, and the old fuel sending units that were the pickups for the carbureted engine will now become our returns. And with both tanks being tied together with a dash 12 line, you should be able to go into a gas station and fill one side, and it will fill both tanks. So it doesn't matter which side of the aisle is open. It doesn't matter. You can fill from the right or the left. You're not gonna fill both tanks in a fast fashion, because obviously they only have a dash 12 line connecting the 2. So that will take a little bit of time, but you put the pump on medium. By the time you pump 40 gallons into the one tank, the other tank is probably going to get 30 or so, and then as you're driving, they'll level each other out. And with 80 gallons a tank, and hopefully 8 or 9 miles a gallon towing a heavy load, or 12 miles a gallon just running the truck, it's going to be way more fuel than anybody's going to want to sit in the seat and drive. There's no way you'd want to drive for 650 miles on one stop. I know I'm good for about 300, and I need to stop. So it'll just be a lot easier. When we had the ball valve in there, you had to remember to keep an eye on the fuel tank. You're just driving along, not paying attention, la-di-da, and next thing you know, the engine would start hesitating. Luckily, carburetor, you got a fuel bowl, and you have to hurry, reach underneath the seat, flip the selector valve, and then check the fuel switch, because there was a tank switch. If you had the tank on the wrong side, it would have showed you had fuel, but you're running on the other tank. It was really weird how the ball valve was mechanical, but the fuel gauge selector was electronic, and they weren't tied together. So you could get yourself into trouble, and it would really be a pain with fuel injection. So I didn't even want to get involved with that. And then having to put returns in both tanks, and maybe running a selector valve or anything, it just seemed to be a lot of hassle, where I think this fuel balancing system will be much easier. We're going to be running off the bottom of the fuel tank, so obviously we're going to get all the fuel out of the tanks. I'll put a big 100 micron filter for the inlet, so even though these tanks have been coated, if you get any debris in the tanks, you're going to have a lot of filter surface area, so that's not going to be an issue. And the filter will be rebuildable with a stainless mesh, so if that were to be an issue, you could pull the filter apart and clean it out. And again, like I said, at each tank, I'm going to put a ball valve so you can shut the tanks off, so you can disassemble the fuel system and not have to worry about how much gas is in the fuel tanks and have that whole issue. So it should work out real well. I think I'm going to run a dash 12. If I can get the ball valves in a 16, I'll run a 16, which will even help balance the tanks even faster. But we'll see. I haven't got those components yet. I'm gonna do that tomorrow. So that'll be another project that'll be knocked off the list. I was hoping to get the wiring harness shortened so it would be ready to install, but with the Corvette fiasco, I was not able to get that done. So, but we're plugging away, and yeah, Ryan, 16 would make it even faster for sure. So we'll see how that happens. I'm going to go to Hydraulic Supply because I want to get all these fittings I want to do in steel rather than aluminum, and I am going to take the front tank strap that goes underneath the tank, and I'm going to put a brace underneath there to basically a skid plate, if you will, to block the fuel line from getting hit by anything from road debris or anything like that. So that should work out real well. The truck, the fuel tanks are quite a bit, quite high off the ground, probably about 10 to 12 inches. So the likelihood of them actually hitting anything, pretty unlikely. And when I was underneath the truck, the toolboxes, which hang down lower than the fuel tanks, there's no road rash or anything on them. So the truck is never, in all the years it's been on the road in service, it's never high-sided on anything on the road. So I feel confident that we're going to be good. And then again, like I said, with a skid plate type guard that I'll put underneath there, I'm sure we're going to be really good. I'll probably make it use some chrome moly roll bar tubing with some connecting plates on it. So I mean, it'll be stout. You'll rip the gas tanks out probably before you would do anything else. But like I said, there's no evidence that anything's ever hit, so it should be good. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right, Ryan. I trying to think ahead and make sure that it's not going to be an issue. The last thing you want is a fuel line hitting something on the road and busting a fuel line open, and especially with 12 or 16 line, and if you're driving down the road and don't even know it, I mean, that's a lot of fuel contaminating the ground and stuff. I don't want that to happen. I like to make things so that they are 100% safe and reliable and no issues. So I think it's going to work out real well, though. I've seen other trucks do it, and I've seen them where they just use a piece of angle iron and they put the angle iron like a V shape and just mounted the hose in the V. That probably would be sufficient, but I think I'm going to go a little bit more aggressive with my setup. And again, that's why I want to put steel fittings and stuff on there from Hydraulic Supply Source rather than racing stuff, because it's going to be much stouter and more durable. So that's what we're going to do with that. Here's some more pictures of the transmission and stuff. There's another view of the lever and stuff. There's a kind of a good angle shot of the fittings. I used a turbo fitting on the second one, so the two fittings are underneath each other and not keep them tucked away from the exhaust, which the exhaust is going to head straight out and turn and go right to the frame and then back by here. So nothing will be close there. And you can kind of see how that the coolers are. There's nothing behind the coolers. They're below the engine and everything else. So that's going to be real good airflow through those. I think that's going to be very sufficient for coolers. Those units are rated. They call them 40K coolers, and on the interweb, everybody says that that's all they're using for the Allison, and they work great. So I'm sure it's going to work fine, especially in a high airflow area like that. It's another picture of the Allison on the passenger side. We got our main plugged in there. I wasn't able to finish the hoses. I got to work on this. This is the inlet and outlet, and you can see Allison transmission. Let me zoom in on that. They use a 1/2-inch line from the factory. And on the interweb, everybody said it was a 10 ORB fitting, which would be a AN10 with an O-ring. I bought those. It is not. So I am working on getting the proper size for that. I brought the other one cooler line home with me so I could source that and work on that tomorrow before I head back up there to work on it tomorrow. Just another, there's a new starter in place. And there, of course, is the picture of the truck. That was when we first got it. Some of the rotted up stuff. Okay, so those are just all the motor pictures. So that's kind of where I'm at with that thing. I got an order coming from Holly with the throttle body. That's one thing I still have to work on. Things that are not finalized yet is the fittings for the transmission oil cooler, the Terminator wiring harness. I got to get that. Injectors, throttle body, which are on their way now. I should have those beginning of the week. And I have to work on a throttle cable setup. Those engines from GM were typically drive-by-wire, which are fine, but we didn't have a throttle body. There's not a lot of room in the cab for the electronic gas pedal, and it just add a lot of added expense. The low carb pedal is the pedal that I like to use because the pedal angle is not infinitely adjustable, but very adjustable. You can change the position of the pedal and either from the left or the right of the electronic piece, so it makes it fitment in the car in a car much better around the tunnel, and you can get the pedal in a position where you're not cramped with your leg. Using the OEM GM pedals, they're made for a late model car with a flat firewall, so they don't fit in early cars and trucks very well. So they never really fit well. And the electronics that GM uses are very delicate, so if you put it in a vise and try to bend the lever to make it fit better, almost every time you'll break the rheostat board in the pedal. So, there's a $125 pedal you throw away. So I use the low cars, but they're in the 400 plus price range. And then you got a high dollar throttle body on top of it. So I like to use the drive-by cable. It's just a standard throttle body, $150, and then use a low car cable. And the truck's already got a mechanical pedal in it. I just got to make the brackets work with the cable because it was designed for carburetor. So those are really the only things I got left. I got the AC bracket, AC compressor on its way, so that'll all fit right in. The exhaust is going to be fairly easy, straight back. Although I think I'm going to kick them out the side and put them, because the truck's low, and when it's underneath the truck, the fuel fumes kind of get lodged underneath the truck, and then they curl up the back. So I've noticed that when you open the rear roll-up door, it smells like, you can smell exhaust in the back of the truck. And if you're driving in rain, you get a lot of turbulence behind the truck, and I've just noticed that the cars get kind of dirty from all that. So I'm going to go ahead and run the exhaust out the sides. I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole through the skirts in front of the tires and kick them out the side so the exhaust goes out the side of the truck. So I think that's going to cure that, or at least a lot of it anyway. Scott took the sleeper out of the box, so you don't really have to worry about fuel fumes or exhaust fumes, hurting anybody, because nobody's going to be in the box. But it just, it's unsettling when you open the door and it just smells like fuel in there, or exhaust in there. So I think that's going to fix that. But we are getting close on that thing. I don't know if I'll have it running this coming week, because like I said, I'm going to be out of town Friday to Monday. So, and then the following week, I'm going to be out of town for a full week. So with Mother's Day and stuff. So it'll probably be another 2 weeks till we get that buttoned up. But I'll keep you guys posted on where we're at with that. And of course, we're not going to be in the shop for the next 2 Saturdays. So that'll hinder the progress on Chuck's truck. And but we'll see. We'll keep moving around between jobs and stuff like that, and keep going from there. So that's pretty much the updates for the week. I have just a couple little things I got to do with the truck, as far as, hook up some power steering hoses and stuff like that. I really cannot wait to get this thing finished, because as I told you guys, the truck is basically 22 miles away from my shop. So whenever I need to get up there, I try to plan a day, so I spend the whole day up there. And then, you run into, I'm missing this part or that part, and it kind of puts a monkey wrench in the whole thing, and kind of takes makes sometimes it's a wasted day. So it definitely hinders the forward progress sometimes. Oh, and the other thing that has to be done, I don't have pictures of it, but the core support is rotted out. Now, I did get some 12 gauge steel and use the plasma cutter to cut out a bunch of repair pieces. I have to go to a buddy's shop and use his press brake and bend the pieces up. But I am going to try to go and get that core support repaired, because that's the other thing. Once the engine is assembled, I got to put the core support back in to get the radiator mounted, so that we can get the truck where it'll run. All the body parts on the front of the truck have been blasted and put in primer. And I did stop by another buddy of mine that does metal work, JC, and he's going to go ahead and take those panels and fix all the rust that's in the fenders and in the hood. We knew there was a couple rust spots in the fenders, but when they blast the hood, some more rust showed up there too. So he's going to go ahead and cut all the rust out and repair it with fresh steel. And he epoxy primers the backside. He didn't show me it working yet, but he just bought one of those laser cleaner welders that you see everybody putting videos up on TikTok and Facebook. And I've actually seen, there's a guy on YouTube, that metal worker I like to follow, Make It Custom. And he has a video on it where he went to a buddy's shop and they demoed it. And those things really do work. The first couple of times I saw them, you see this guy with a gun. He's got this laser bouncing around on rusty steel, and when he's done, it's brand new steel. So, the first couple of times I thought, wow, that was really cool, but it's probably fake. And then the more and more you see it, you realize it is for real. But the second side of that is it is expensive. They're between $4,000 and $8,000 for most of those units. But JC just purchased one. He got his for about $4,200. And he was showing me like hood hinges and inner door panels and stuff, where before he would have the door blasted and then cut the skin off, and have to take it back, and they'd blast the inner workings of it to get that all clean, because you can't really get in there with a sander. There's way too many nooks and crannies and stuff. But with that laser cleaner, you can just go in there and hit the laser in there, and it doesn't matter what the shape of the surface is. As long as the beam hits it, it takes all the rust and paint and scale off of them and gives you a fresh piece of steel to work with, which worked out great on the hood hinges. The last thing you'd want to do with a hood hinge, especially most of the 70s and 60s ones, because their friction have sand and grit down inside the pivot points. It'd take forever to get it out of there. And as anybody could think, whenever you have sand or soda in between metals, it is hard to get out, and if you don't get it out, it's just going to turn into corrosion later, especially with the Soda Blast. Soda Blast cleans well, but if you don't have it completely washed with acid cleaner, or I don't know, maybe lacquer thinner, but I know JC said he uses an acid wash, that stuff gets a coating, and it makes a mess. It stays in all the little nooks and crannies. Next thing you know, you got a corrosive material rusting all that hard work that you just cleaned up. So with this, again, with the new laser cutter cleaner, he can get in there and it doesn't leave any residue, just bare metal, and then you can get in there with an epoxy primer or epoxy paint and coat it, and then, or a weld primer, whatever you're using, and then you've got a good coating on there. So, and that's one of the things that JC does when he does all the metal repair. He never uses overlapping metal. So, overlapping metal is another big problem when you're trying to do rust repair, because the 2 layers of steel not welded will let you will attract moisture, condensation in between, and start rusting again. Ryan says soda's a bitch. Laser or dry ice is the best. Okay, so you've been you are aware of the laser stuff too. Yeah, dry ice works good for taking sound deadening out. I know that. I never thought about for stripping paint. Now, one thing that JC hasn't done yet is the laser welder, and I did notice on Make It Custom's video when they were using the laser welder, and the same thing with the laser cleaner. You can see it the metal smoking as they're cleaning it or welding it. So the metal is getting hot, but the thing is, because it's so quick and such a small spot, that once they were done with a weld repair, you could actually touch it and there's no heat. So you can imagine doing sheet metal, what a plus that is if you can weld sheet metal together and not have to go back and hammer and dolly it. Even using a TIG welder, which is probably the lowest heat you could actually weld metal with before, you still have to go back and hammer dolly all the weld seams, because they'll get distorted, and so it just creates more labor. So, but one of the things that JC said, of course, and this is an issue with anything that comes from China or any of the other foreign countries like that, the instruction booklet, well, and his didn't even come with one, but even if it did, it would be Chinese and you wouldn't be able to understand it anyway. So that's something that he hasn't taken the time to experiment with different thicknesses of metals to set the machine up for welding properly. So, but he does want to get that going, because he feels that's going to be a real big time consumer. So, unfortunately, now that I've seen it, I may have to start saving up to buy one of those things, because I know all the stuff I saw online was they look cool as crap. So it may just be another piece I might need to get, and then I can do cleaning here and wouldn't have to send stuff out for blasting. And I only have I've got a soda or sand blaster, but it's just a pot that you got to fill, and you got to do it outside because it makes a mess and whatnot. And one of the other things, soda is so corrosive. When I did the stock car wheels with the soda, I did it out in the yard behind the building, and all that grass died just from having the soda in it. So it's a mess. We got a new guy on the chat. Hey, welcome to the chat. To discover EDM, any weld without filler metal is weaker, such as a laser welder doesn't use a filler rod or wire rolls. So the one laser welder I saw on Make It Custom, there is a very fine wire that does come out and go into the weld, and it looked like it was maybe a 020 or maybe 015. It was a really thin piece of wire, but it did have a piece of wire coming out of it. At least the one I saw on YouTube. I'm going to do some more research on that, because I'm very interested. But you're correct. When you if you TIG weld You can put a tack down without putting a filler piece in, but when you're actually welding, if you're bonding the two pieces of metal together without a filler rod, you've now created a thinner piece of metal. You have to put the filler rod in and dip it into the weld puddle to recreate the thickness of the piece you're working on. Or you can even actually, if you dip a lot of rod in, you can actually make a taller weld than the material you're working with, so that you can grind it down, like doing a bumper or something like that. You can fill it really nice and full, so that when you knock down the high spots, you get a nice, clean, solid finish. Again, I'm just doing the research on the laser welders. I'm not that familiar with them yet, but they are piquing my interest, so I'm definitely going to look into that. Oh, thanks. So that's something. And to let you guys know, I've been doing research, and I did find some lens filters for my camera. So I am going to be working on getting that welding video done. And I'm thinking what we're going to do is I'm going to try to make that for episode 100. I think that'll be a good, I want to do something special for the 100th episode. So that's roughly about 7 weeks from now, we'll be doing that. So I'm going to be working on getting that stuff and getting some video on that, and we'll work on showing some aluminum and stainless and steel welding. I know early on I showed some stainless welding with using a solar flux instead of back purging, and demonstrated that. But again, we weren't able to really look at the weld much because I don't have the proper filters on my camera. So I'm going to really work on that. And again, I mean, I'm a hobby welder at best. I mean, I've been welding for many, many years. I did take some vocational classes when I was in high school, which was a long time ago. But and I don't weld for a living. I mean, I do a lot of welding, building components and parts. And at one time, I used to do a lot of chassis drag race and road race chassis and stuff like that. So I know my way around welding, but I wouldn't say I am by any means an expert. But I definitely think I've got something to share for you guys, especially the guys that are hobbyists and building hot rods in your spare time. It's not your day job. So I think it'll be very interesting for you guys. And like I said, we'll work on that for episode 100. So tonight was episode 92. Just if you didn't catch that in the title. So I think that is pretty close to what we have for tonight. I wanted to get that wiring harness deal done, but the Corvette really threw a monkey wrench into my week. And Ryan says, curious how laser hammer dollies. Yeah, I haven't seen anything on that yet. Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I'll go back to Make It Customs video and put that in ask him in the comments, see what he thought about that. That guy, I don't know if any of you have seen any of his videos, but he is quite the craftsman with sheet metal working. He makes a lot of his own tools and different kind of forming dies and stuff like that. And he makes a lot of that stuff where you can use it in homemade tools. He's got some forming dies that kind of work like a Power Max that you can actually put in like a smaller unit. You could get like it from Harbor Freight, and he makes some dollies so you can do some. You probably couldn't do 14 gauge, but you can definitely do some cool shaping and stuff like that. So that's a pretty cool channel to watch. Okay, Ryan, you've seen him. Yeah, he is pretty amazing. I mean, I've seen him take some crushed hoods that most people would say, why even try to straighten it? And I'm sure he puts a ton of hours into it, but when they're done, they are just beautiful pieces of work. So Anyway, so yeah, so that's a good question. I'll try to find that out, and maybe I'll try to get some more laser information for that 100th episode. So my neighbor, Pat, it's his birthday tonight. Happy birthday, Patrick, if you're watching. And so I know I'm gonna head over there and get the tail end of dinner. So I guess we're going to go ahead and pull the plug on tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining and watching. I know it's kind of a pain to come spend your Tuesday night watching me BS on this thing, but hopefully some of the information is useful, and we all have a good time with this, and we'll get some more stuff coming down the pike as things go in the shop, and and we'll go from there. So I appreciate it. Remember, hit the like button. It helps with algorithms. Share videos. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Ring the bell and you'll get instant notification. And if you okay, I appreciate that, Chris. But yeah, so we'll get that stuff going, and I'm gonna try to get that Darlington video content for the NASCAR out this week. It didn't get it done, but I'm gonna try to get that done this week yet. So look for that, and I'll see everybody next Tuesday. Thanks for watching and all that stuff. I really appreciate it. You guys are great, and we'll see y'all next week. Appreciate it. See ya.